Houston has not lost a road game since 2024, but this weekend, Texas Tech will test that.
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, the daily podcast all about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, and whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Coogs your first listen of the day, making Locked On Sports Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. If you enjoy the conversation and you don't know what to say, tell us in the comments down below. Look, winter weather is aplenty this weekend. I hope you're safe. If you're traveling to the game, traveling somewhere to watch the game, I hope you're doing that safely as possible. I will say, though, when the winter comes, I drink a lot more coffee. I'm not much of a hot chocolate person. Are you a hot chocolate person? Are you a warm drinks person in the cold as rarely as we get it? Now, in today's show, I want to talk a little bit about this matchup, why this is a big test for Houston. I want to talk some about why this game matters at the level that it does for Houston. I want to talk about this being a second matchup between these two teams. And in the last segment, I want to talk about what I'm watching for and changes from the first matchup to this one. But look, Houston, Texas Tech, this is a budding rivalry in this conference in a lot of ways. They don't want to admit it, sure, but they really, really want to beat Houston in basketball. Just look at the way they react when it doesn't happen, right? This is also a college game day sized game. College game day, ESPN's college game day will be on campus, and that has actually, I think, dictated some things about this game. They've moved up the game time from 5:30 p.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Central Time. To try and help navigate some of the weather challenges hitting Texas this weekend. I, in my heart of hearts, feel like had this not been the college game day game and this were still being played in Lubbock, you might have seen it move to a different day of the week. No one said that. No one's alluded. This is not reporting. This is conjecture, but the game day aspect of this meant there were so many things involved in making sure this game went off on Saturday. I think that's where things will be. I don't know that it impacts the crowd a whole lot. I do think Lubbock will show up and show out for this one. I don't anticipate that doing anything there because it's a 1 o'clock game. I feel it makes it more likely, right, that there's some early morning tailgates and people showing up, right? I think that's they've done some things to make sure that people don't camp out overnight because of the danger of the cold and how cold it's going to be. But I still think you'll see a lot of people show up very rowdy and ready to roll. Houston in this one, though, faces an interesting test because for, all the things they've done in this conference, they've had success, right? They only lost one game out of the 20 regular season and the conference tournament last year in Big 12 play. That was remarkable. After two losses early in the conference in 2024, they turned things around and got all the way to the conference championship game that season. This year so far, they're undefeated in conference play. All that's true. All that's fun. All that's awesome. However, this year, based on the luck of the draw, some of Houston's most challenging games, basically all except for one of their most challenging games in conference play, are on the road. Texas Tech this weekend and BYU at the start of February, first weekend in February. First full weekend in February, I should say. I guess the 7th. They have Iowa State on a big Monday, Kansas on a big Monday, all road games. Just Arizona comes to Houston on a Saturday in between there as well. But ultimately, those are all challenging top 25 road trips for Houston. And look, I think Houston's played a very challenging schedule. I think there's a lot of intention to what's happened on this schedule. But they haven't played a road game like this yet. They played in Birmingham against Auburn. That was close. Auburn is talented. Auburn has a new coach. They're figuring some stuff out. This is not the same Auburn that was in the Final Four last year. I do ultimately think that helped prepare them for things like this, right? when you hear like Kingston Flemings talk about that game against Auburn, they're talking about how like they couldn't hear for the last like 12 minutes of basketball, right? Those kinds of aspects I think do make it feel similar. But ultimately, this is a different environment. Conference game, true road game, people going crazy. I think there's honestly some aspects of like the weather and chaos adding to the feeling of being a little bit isolated too. I mean, it's going to be a very, very challenging travel, and they don't at this point know exactly what they're going to do after the game as far as coming back to Houston before going to Fort Worth to play TCU on Wednesday. Are they going to just go straight to Fort Worth, or they're going to lay over in Lubbock and wait for some of the weather to go away? That's still up in the air right now, as of the recording of this, right? And all of those unknowns are just they make this thing feel a little bit different, a little bit weird. And also Texas Tech's really good, right? Top 12 team in the country. They just beat BYU last week. They just beat Baylor throughout the week as well. And yes, I think Houston will beat BYU. Yes, I think Houston has. I mean, Houston did show Baylor the door very quickly there in Waco. But that I think I, I think it's worth pointing out that while Houston had a week to help get recovered, help rest, Texas Tech's playing really good basketball right now. And that's where Houston and Tech will match up interestingly in this one. Now, I also think that the rest will help. Houston plays very physical style of basketball, and obviously, while practices are also physical, it's nice to take a little bit different. It's different than a game day, right? Takes a little different on your body. Texas Tech has every reason to think that they can beat Houston. They're the only team last year in the Big 12 to beat Houston. They are the only team to beat Houston in the city of Houston, or I guess in Fertitta Center last year. And and I feel like, excuse me, and I feel like that, frankly, if we're being honest, and we'll talk about the fact this is round 2 in a second, they kind of feel like Houston stole this one in the first matchup in Houston. They played really well in that game, and they were not very deep in that game. Both teams had combined one bench bucket in that game. Texas Tech had a lead late in that game. Houston came back and stole it from them, and I think Texas Tech's upset about that. This game is gigantic. Everyone's going to be watching it. They didn't move from 5:30 to 1 o'clock on accident, right? They didn't move it right up next to game day. They picked a time when people would still be watching it. This is a big time deal and a big time chance for Houston to show off where they're at in this conference. And in that Big 12 race, there's a handful of teams that shot to win this conference. Houston's absolutely one of them, obviously. Texas Tech is too. Getting a second win, sweeping Texas Tech in that Big 12 race would be a really big deal. Like a really, really big deal. 2 wins, they get 2 losses. As far as the top handful of teams go, if there are any kind of tiebreakers, you start inserting yourself very quickly in those. And further, of those top teams, Texas Tech is the only one Houston has the opportunity to do this with. They don't play Arizona twice. They don't play BYU twice. They don't play Iowa State twice, right? They play Tech twice. This is a chance to put your foot down on this conference early and kind of start getting some separation from the pack, right? This is a really, really big game for a lot of different reasons for Houston. And I'm really, really excited to get to watch this. I think it's going to be a really, really fun one too, because the first one was so fun. First one was so fun. And I'm talking about why that first one was so fun, how this is a round 2 of that matchup, but it's a continuation of that matchup in just 1 second. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, because FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like the most. Open the profit boost pack the first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. Every play feels bigger. Boosts make your bets feel that way to make your picks, and then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs are getting rolling. Visit FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack for every NFL playoff game day. Parker Ainsworth, Locked on Coogs. I want to say Thank you for making Locked on Coogs your first listen today and making Locked on Sports Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network out there. If you haven't already checked it out, I'm going to ask you if you want more Locked on Coogs, go check out that Everydayer Club at lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer to find out more. But in this access level, all access stuff, you get all access, free, ad-free audio episodes, invite to a members only Discord server, all access episodes of Locked on Coogs, one-on-one texting, a merch store, all kinds of stuff out there. If that suits your fancy, if you just want more Locked on Coogs, go to lockedonpodcast.com/everyday to find out more, or go to lockedoncoogs.supercast.com down below. Find that to get into the Locked on Coogs right away. Now, in that everyday option, we put out some video on, or passed out some video on, like what is going on with defensive fixes for this game, right? And I would point out too, if you're in this all access group, you want to text me something through the one-on-one texting features, feel free. We'll talk about the game going into it. Frankly, I think we'll all be snowed in and we'll be able to talk about a lot, right? This game was really, really fun the first time. And I think it's easy to forget because of how fun it was the first time. Houston was down 4 points with about 3 minutes to go in this basketball game. And defense turned up, offense turned to Kingston, and things really dramatically shifted. So Watts commits travel, and then they have a handful of different things that ultimately result in Houston forcing a shot clock turnover with about 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. And I want to stress that Houston forced a shot clock turnover at 2 minutes and 15 seconds left, because that means dead ball turnover, defense gets to set up, etc. And before the 2-minute mark, with a dead ball turnover, Kingston Flemings walks the ball up and walks into a 3-point basket to say it's his turn. Now, that takes Houston from down 2 to up 1. And honestly, it ends up getting tied on a free throw a second later. But then a few seconds after that, Kingston Flemings makes a 10 or close more like 15-foot mid-range jump shot. And then as things go back and forth, Sinak makes a free throw, but Toppin makes a layup and cuts it to 1. It feels like it's going to be a game. Whenever Houston's got the ball, Flemings has it. He kicks it to Chris Sinak on the wing and just, actually waves back, give me the ball back, please. Give me the ball back, please. Gets the ball, takes the dribble, pulls up for 3, nails it with 30 seconds left to go up 4. And it's the Kingston Flemings show, right? And that was a big, big deal. What's fascinating, though, about the second matchup with these things is Texas Tech absolutely feels like that was something that just got snatched from them. Remember, there's also a bit of this where Kingston was a recruit that was between Texas Tech and Houston. They certainly felt like they had him for a second, and I think they threw a lot of cash that way, and Houston ultimately landed the guy, right? Now, with all of that said, they absolutely feel like, okay, that kid got hot at that time. If we'd have played another 2 minutes, he'd have cooled down, we'd have been fine. Or, hey, if we'd had one more possession here, one more possession there, made these free throws there, made these free throws there, whatever, sure, right? And maybe that's all true, and maybe that's all fine and dandy. Houston was winning when the clock expired. Houston was winning when the clock expired, and it was a lot of fun to watch that happen. In the second matchup, I'd imagine you see a real big hole shot for either team, right? Like I think that because of the way this game ended the first time, the chaos, the way that Kingston put on the cape and heroics, in the second matchup, that chip on the shoulder, or that's riding the high of the first matchup for Houston, going into the road environment and trying to prove that, riding that into there, or if it's Texas Tech trying to show that is obviously like a very much a one-off kind of a thing, or rebound back or push back against, or I'm tired of hearing about this, or I can't believe we had to watch that film session. I can't, right? That push back and forth is going to, I think, dictate a big, like, early lead. Like, I'm talking like some team is going to be up like 10-2. Like, I think it's going to be that kind of a whole shot lead for somebody. I don't think the game ends that far apart. I think this game ends again in another 4-point game, but I think that's going to happen to somebody early in this one. It's just going to be someone's going to have the energy at the gate. It's going to be, frankly, like the Petty Kid or Atwell, or somebody hits a couple threes for Tech, or it's going to be Houston, like Emanuel Sharp starts off hot, or JoJo hits 3 turnarounds on the left block, or something like that happens early, right, to get this kind of a thing going, because you're going to be riding that energy from the first matchup. Now, I also think it's worth pointing out that these teams really know each other. We're going to talk about what to watch for in the third segment, but like this Houston team knows exactly the kinds of ways that if they take Christian Anderson out of the game, because for all intents and purposes, in the first game, it appeared that Houston's defensive strategy was, okay, we're going to make you beat us without Christian Anderson scoring. We're going to run him off the line. We're going to have a help side at the rim. We're not going to let him get his shot off, get his points off. And Anderson had 7 assists, and JT Toppin had 18 points. And the Petty Kid, the shooter, he had 20 points. He had 5 threes. Like, they figured out, I guess I should say, how to score some against that. Texas Tech is a team that scores over 80 a game. I think it's only scored 65. So figured it out. It's a relative term, obviously. But Houston decided they weren't going to let Anderson beat them scoring the basketball in that game. I'll be interested to see in this one, does Tech opt to force the issue with Anderson and turn him into more of a scorer in some way? Do they kind of try and combat Houston's defensive strategies there to kind of get him into more of a scoring role, or where do they go from that? But anyway, when you've played a team twice, or playing a team a second time, I should say, what's going to be interesting to see is what do the teams like carry over with them? Does Houston bring in some of that exact same, running guys off the line, running guys off the this, running guys off the that, and try to make sure Christian Anderson beats them passing, not scoring? Because clearly Christian Anderson's the kind of guy that's having looking like an NBA first-round draft pick kind of a year. He's having a really good year scoring basketball. And frankly, the Houston game is kind of an eyesore relative to his box scores as far as what his season looks like scoring the basketball, right? Is Houston going to say, hey, JT Toppin and his 18 points almost beat it, 18 points, 11 rebounds, that almost beat us. So we're going to, pack the paint, keep the post off the block kind of a thing. We're going to hedge over to that short roll more. What are we going to do against that? What is Houston going to try and take away more so? I also think offensively, though, what you saw in this one is that you saw Miles Usain show off early, Emanuel Sharp show off throughout, Kingston Flemings show up late. 4 of the 5 starters end up in double figures. And I wonder if it's almost like going into round 2, it's okay. You kind of know, you have a good feeling, I guess, of what Texas Tech's defensive strategies are going to be, right? Or what Texas Tech's defensively going to look like, where they're going to match up. Emanuel Sharp was able to kind of physically bully his matchup. If you line up and they try and do that again, is Sharp going to get hot early? You're going to go to the well earlier. You're going to hit he kind of isolated from the wing some in the late first half. You're going to hit that in this one earlier in the basketball game, right? Where are you going to go with those kind of different things? Excited to see where those kinds of things match up. But I want to talk about exactly, specifically, what I've got my eyes on in the second matchup between these teams, because this is a big-time matchup for both. I want to get into that in just 1 second. But first, today's show is brought to you by our buddies over at TurboTax. Because tax season just have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by trusted local experts from start to finish without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert or in person or conduct it online, I should say. You can upload your documents, go about your day, get updates throughout the TurboTax app throughout the day. It's a huge time saver, gives peace of mind, and you get to know that an expert is handling all of your taxes for you. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file last year, just make sure it gets filed by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Parker Haters Locked on Coogs here. Thank you for making Locked On Coogs your first listen today. Making Locked On Sports Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network out there. Again, if you want more Locked On Coogs, go to lockedonpodcast.com/everyday to find out more, or you just heard too much about it. We know the action. Go to lockedoncoogs.supercast.com. Access to ad-free audio, invite to members on the Discord server, one-on-one texting with me, all kinds of extra episodes and stuff like that too. So make sure you go check that out. Speaking of which, in doing some prep for this one, I clipped up some stuff I was watching on defense and threw it in there. And what's fascinating to me about watching that back is Houston's gotten so much better. Houston's gotten better since that game. That game, there were so many freshman mistakes being made on defense. And when you look at Houston's schedule, like you can kind of see it in the scores. Now, no one they've played since Tech is as good as Tech. So that should probably be prefaced. But they beat Tech by a whopping 4 points. It was really 7, but then the midcourt shot right at the end. But then they beat Baylor on the road by 22. They come home and beat West Virginia by 30. They host Arizona State. I'm sorry, beat them by 30 as well. And they're just playing a lot better basketball. The defense is a lot crisper. They're a lot better rotation. Some of that is the opponents. Some of it is, I'm sure, learning from the Tech film. In the Texas Tech game, there were stretches in the first half where you had 3 freshmen on the floor. There are stretches in both halves where we had, if you count McCarty as a freshman, 3 freshmen on the floor. And I think the defensive rotation to the short roll showed that. We heard Kelvin Sampson say it in the post game at the Tech game itself and in the build-up this week in the media availability that the short roll to JT Toppin was problematic. What I'm looking for in the second game is, does Houston make adjustments? What those adjustments are, where they come from, or do they feel like defensively they held a team that scores in the mid-80s to 65? That wasn't the problem, right? Because truthfully, there were moments where JT Toppin could have done even more damage, it felt like, but they had an assist. He had an assist here, or they spun the ball elsewhere, or whatever, right? In particular, I thought like Flemings and Sinak were just like a half a step slow a couple different times, but that half a step slow gets magnified when you're playing a team at the level that Texas Tech plays at, right? And so Houston's going to be quicker, and so maybe it's not about fixing strategy, but it's fixing speed or fixing reaction times or being more adjusted to what Texas Tech's doing or having lived through it once, right? But how Houston plays that short roll will be interesting to me. I want to see what they're doing at Toppin, how they're adjusting to Toppin, where the help side comes from, and is it on time, and is it covering up the top leg of the low man and those kind of things, right? Second thing I'm going to be looking out for in this game is, honestly, does either team have a bench? Because in the first matchup, if you remember, between both benches, there was a single basket scored. Part of that is because Texas Tech is not very deep. There's rumors that they may get some guys back from injury this weekend. I'm sure they will, because, of course, that would be Houston's luck, is to have some guy come back that we have no scouting report on. He goes off for 15 points off the bench or something, right? However, we're not used to seeing Houston's bench not score. Isiah Harwell has been playing much better as of late on offense. In that first game, if you remember, he got hurt, right? And so I think it's worth pointing out that in this game, he'll have a bigger role. And he's been scoring the basketball pretty well as of late. Does Harwell come in off the bench and have like a bench savior kind of day? And frankly, does that negate needing Kingston Flemings heroics at the end, right? If Harwell has 7 points in the first matchup, you don't need the Flemings heroics at the end, right? Is this going to be that kind of a thing? And I think that's a very he's playing well enough on offense. He's finding his spots. He's in the groove. He's not pushing it. He's not overextending himself. I think he's really doing a pretty good job of finding where he fits in on offense when he's coming off the bench, which is, I should stress, for a freshman, a really big challenge. Think about when you're Isiah Harwell. Every team your whole life you've ever been on, this was a 5-star prospect. He's been the best player. He comes to Houston. he's not just not the best player, he's coming off the bench. When he comes in the game, it's how do you insert yourself and make a difference without disrupting the chemistry and what's going on. And he's navigating that really well as of late. Anyway, I think I'm interested to see where that plays out in this matchup. The third thing I'm looking for, and this really comes from in the post game of the first game between these two teams, Emanuel Sharp said that they were looking to call Kingston's number down the stretch. And there was kind of a national recognition after that game, like, oh, this Kingston guy's got something different. There's been that a couple different times this year, and I'm excited to see it happen again. I don't want to need Kingston heroics, don't get me wrong there, but I would love to watch it if you do. Because whether it's Auburn or Arkansas or Tech the first time, it feels like every time they need something done, Kingston's found a way. And this feels like another opportunity on the road, hostile environment, hostile conditions, big time TV atmosphere, highly touted team, a little bit of a rivalry. They recruited Kingston heavily, right? This feels like another building towards a moment. And I look, full disclosure, Kingston's been on the show as a guest one time, and we're working again a second time. We'll see if it happens. Obviously, in the season, pretty busy and all that kind of stuff. I am a gigantic fan of this kid as a person. He's a really good, cool person. And that he's also one of the best players in college basketball and also like a top 5 pick almost feels like a bonus. And seeing it all happen together is just like this incredible, like all I just hit my microphone, but all coming together at once is just so cool. And I think this weekend provides another chance or another moment to see it happen. And we said this after the Tech game the first time. Frankly, we said this after the Arkansas game. And if I'm being honest, I think I said it after the Auburn game. This kid's a one and done. And I don't say that because I want to see him go. Say it because there will be 27 NBA teams lined up to take him in the NBA draft this summer. He's a one and done. You got to enjoy this while it's here. And I'm enjoying the heck out of it. I hope you do too. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. Logistical things before we go. This weekend, who knows what happens to the power? Who knows what happens to the Wi-Fi? Who knows what happens with the stream trying to watch this game, etc. Right? The goal is to be live post-game report like normal, talking your reaction show, go back and forth. If you're in the all access group, text me through the subtext. We'll go back and forth, have some questions and answers, and all of that. That's the anticipation, the goal. I would be silly to act like it's going to go off without a hitch. There will probably be some technical difficulties, etc. We'll work through them. I'll get that as best you can, best I can. Bear with me. I'll bear with you too. Hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know when things go live, and we'll get it to you as quickly as we can. Locked on Coogs is prime member of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day. Go Coogs.